Let's do her.
Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner, Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner, Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner, Precinct 3. J.D. Johnson, Commissioner, Precinct 4. Constitutes a quorum.
Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Reverend Judy Williamson from the Arborlawn United Methodist Church in Fort Worth. Thank you very much for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Great Creator, Redeemer, and Spirit, God of grace and mercy, our protector, bless each person assembled here. Thank you for their service and their accomplishments in the public interest. We are filled with wonder, appreciation, and anticipation for the possibilities of great good happening in this day in Tarrant County. God, you prepared this day. You prepared us. You are connecting all of us. You are helping us receive training to do our jobs wisely and efficiently. Thank you for inspiring unity and new ideas. Thank you for the amazing resources available to us in Tarrant County already. Thank you for helping us discover things long overlooked. Thank you for teaching us to treasure the people. As we continue to honor our military veterans and support our military families, are there other good things that we can do for them? As we proudly encourage the joys of adoption, are there other things we can do for children and families? A river named Trinity runs through this county and almost outside the door to this building. Inspire more of what is great, good, and even bold in the public interest to bubble up, splash, and flow like living waters from those assembled here today. This is your good day. We know it. We thank you. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Reverend Williamson, thank you very much for coming out today. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we do not have any announcements as it relates to this particular agenda. However, I would like to announce that next Monday, the 19th, at 3:30, we are going to have a special call meeting of the Commissioners Court to canvass the votes for the November 6th election. And it should be at 3:30. 3:30. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of November the 6th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a resolution and a proclamation today, and the first resolution is one honoring the Veterans Awareness Week, and I'm going to read that into the record, and I'm going to ask our Director of Veterans Services, Chester Savage, to come forward at this time. Whereas it is appropriate to salute those tens of thousands of men and women who have served and are serving in America's armed forces, and whereas it is recognized that during the past century, hundreds of thousands of Americans have given their lives while serving in the armed forces, and whereas currently over 200 Tarrant County employees are among the brave men and women who have or are serving in our armed forces, and whereas each November, Veterans Day is set aside as a time to honor those men and women who have so ably served in the armed forces of the United States, and whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who serve and are serving in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by the people of the United States. And whereas while we can never hope to fully repay these courageous men and women for their distinguished service to our nation, we can and must show our appreciation for their sacrifice. And whereas Veterans Day is observed on November the 11th, regardless of what day of the week on which it falls, to preserve the historical significance of the date and focus attention on the important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor Americans' veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize the week of November 12th through 16th, 2012, as Veterans Awareness Week, and in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the Great Seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 13th day of November, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Chester, on behalf of all the veterans, let's get a picture. Would you like to make a comment?
I just want to accept this on behalf of all the veterans of Tarrant County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, in addition, we did ask our veterans to be here today, and today we do honor the men and women of our armed forces who now work for Tarrant County. Some of you may still be in the reserves, some have served in more than one branch of our armed services, and some of your closest family members may have given the ultimate sacrifice to defend our freedom. Today, we're going to honor more than our veterans. Let's thank all of the active duty members who's in harm's way and whose military families who support them. I would like for everyone to please rise as I call out your particular branch of service. The first is the U.S. Army. It is the main branch of the United States Armed Forces, responsible for the land-based military operations. It is the largest and oldest established branch of the U.S. military with roots in the Continental Army, which was formed in 1775 to meet the demands of the American Revolutionary War. The Army National Guard, and the Army Reserves together have about 1.1 million members. Thank you all. The United States Navy is the largest Navy in the world, larger than the next 13 navies combined. Wow. The Navy has about 285 ships, including the most recently commissioned USS Fort Worth, and is the world's largest carrier fleet of 11 ships and about 3,700 aircraft. The Navy has its origins in the Continental Navy, established during the Revolutionary War. It was actually disbanded shortly after the war ended, and then the Constitution, however, gave Congress the power to provide and maintain a Navy, and due to the threat of piracy, Congress passed the Naval Act of 1794, which ordered the construction and manning of, at that time, 6 frigates, which was the start of the current Navy. The Navy has about 318,000 personnel and another 108,700 in Navy reserves. Thank you all. The United States Marine Corps, there you go, is responsible for providing a rapidly deployed combined arms task force using the mobility of the U.S. Navy. The Marine Corps works closely with the Navy for training, transportation, and logistics purposes. In 1775, Captain Samuel Nichols formed 2 battalions of Continental Marines in Philadelphia as naval infantry. The Marine Corps attained prominence in the 20th century with its theories and practices of amphibious warfare. As of 2010, the Marine Corps had about 200,000 active duty Marines and about 40,000 reserve Marines. It is larger than some of the armed forces of some countries, such as the active duty British Army. Thank you all. The United States Coast Guard is a unique maritime and military multi-mission service. It was a maritime law enforcement mission and jurisdiction in domestic and international waters and a federal regulatory agency mission. The Coast Guard is under the Department of Homeland Security during peacetime and can be transferred to the Navy by the President or Congress during war. The Coast Guard was founded by Alexander Hamilton in 1790 and is the nation's oldest continuous seagoing service. It has about 43,000 on active duty, 7,800 reservists, and 30,000 auxiliary volunteers. The United States Air Force was the Army Air Corps, a part of the Army in World War II, but only became a separate branch of the military in 1947. It is the largest and most technologically advanced Air Force in the world. The Air Force was initially conceived as air support for ground troops. Over the years, its mission evolved, as did the concept of our air power, especially during World War II. The autonomy of the Air Force grew through its role in nuclear deterrence operations, global precision attack, and mobility and space superiority. The Air Force has about 5,500 manned aircraft, several hundred unmanned aircraft, about 2,000 air-launched cruise missiles, and about 450 intercontinental ballistic missiles. There are about 330,000 personnel on active duty, another 70,000 in the reserves, and about 95,000 in the Air National Guard. Thank you all. There are actually two other uniformed services that I want to recognize. One is the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps. Anyone here a part of that? And then the other is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Commission Corps. This was something that I was not aware of until we kind of got to looking at this. As we also go forward, let us remember the hundreds of thousands of civilians who work with each of the military services, providing much of the needed backup and the administrative support. They also deserve to be honored. And kind of as a last thought, I would like for everyone who is a veteran of Vietnam to please stand. Let me begin by first apologizing to you. You got caught up in a political debate. You answered the call of your country. You performed admirably in your duty of military service in the Vietnam War. But when you came home, instead of being treated like heroes, in many instances you were cursed, you were spit upon, and that wasn't right. Again, you answered the call of your country. And for that, we are appreciative, and we want to thank you especially for all that you did for our country. This was something that we looked forward to, and it's going to be an annual occurrence. We again want to thank you. We cannot thank you enough for the service that you have given to our country. We enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy because you are willing, and you were willing and are willing to continue to serve on our behalf and to stand in harm's way to make sure that we continue to enjoy these freedoms. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Our next proclamation is Tarrant County Adoption Day, And I will read that into the record. Whereas there are thousands of Texas children who have been abused or neglected or abandoned by their natural birth parents, and more than 1,100 of these children are in Tarrant County, and whereas many of these children's only hope for a full and productive life is to be accepted by loving homes, and whereas adoption allows children to be reared in a safe, loving, and nurturing environment as adoptive parents take on the role of guiding, teaching, nurturing, and loving children in order to provide them the best possible chance for being productive citizens. And whereas we commend these families for the sacrifices they are willing to make to enhance the lives of these children, and whereas the children being adopted today by these loving and special families will have a new chance in life to fulfill their hopes and dreams, and whereas this is a special day to celebrate, and we send our best wishes to the children whose adoptions are made final today, and to the wonderful families who will give them unconditional love. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners' Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim November the 16th, 2012, as Tarrant County Adoption Day, in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 13th day of November 2012, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And we have a proclamation. I believe Shannon Boyd, the chairman of the Adoption Day Committee, is she here to accept this? Does not appear that she was able to make it. This will occur later this week. And let me thank everybody in the Tarrant County family who is so involved in this process and has really made this the success that it has come to be over the years. It's not something that just happens. It's something that our folks, along with these families and these children, work to have happen and work to make it really a special day, especially in the lives of these children. And we're very proud to be a part of that, and I want to thank everyone who participates and who has worked in that for many years. This has been going on now for several years. With that, I think we'll take just a short recess and maybe allow some of y'all folks that we honor here today, if you've got to get, we'll allow you to get. The DA's office is next.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have two checks for on one case. The first one is $21,500, and the second check is the amount of $9,079.23, requesting authorization for the county to cash these subrogation recovery checks.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn?
Good morning.
Morning.
We have two items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking the court to approve an out-of-class pay extension for juvenile services. As explained in your court communique, if this is approved, it will be effective November 16th and will expire February 13th of next year. The fiscal impact we're estimating to be approximately $1,600 to the general fund.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come on, Jack. Where are you at this morning here, boy?
I wanted Jack up here too this morning.
How'd your team do today, or this past weekend?
If I came up here only we won, I wouldn't be up here very much this year.
I know it. We're going to start that policy here before long.
Rob's going to give our agenda. I actually put my Navy son was in. Can I tell y'all some stuff?
Sure.
Since it's Veterans Day, some of you knew that I had the opportunity to ride on the Uss Enterprise from Jacksonville, Florida to Norfolk, Virginia last week.
Congratulations.
It's the neatest thing I've ever done in my life. A couple of stories. The Enterprise is being retired. December 1, they're decommissioning her. She's the most recognized and best ship in the Navy, oldest ship, been on the water for 51 years. A couple of neat things that happened. 3,000 people applied to take this cruise. They actually only took 1,000 for security and health reasons, and we were honored to be there with our sailors. Left about early dark 30 Friday morning. A couple of neat things that happened. I could talk for a long time, but just some real neat things that happened. I thought it might happen. The Admiral was been around for quite some time and is well decorated. Have been on the seas for about 40 years. I guess the way to put things into perspective, since it's a 51-year-old ship, that it's still operative, my vehicle wouldn't be very well at 51 years of service. But the thing is just huge. It's 2 football fields long. As far as you can see, you see the flight deck. What the guy did, he apparently called down to the reactor room, and I think it was Star Wars Commander Scotty. He called down the reactor room and said, "Scotty, give me all you got one more time." They actually broke a nautical speed record of over 37 knots. It's just supposed to do 30 in a 51-year-old vehicle, and we were flying across the water. The other thing that they did, which was pretty special, we were allowed to go on deck to see the helicopters land and take off. Not so much with the F-18 Hornets, but he actually pulled another carrier that was in the vicinity close by to the Enterprise. We got to watch them land and take off for about an hour. A guy broke the sound barrier right in front of us. Everybody had earplugs on, but the sound comes after. I actually saw the vapors separate before the sound hit. People's A&M hats were falling off, and they were hitting the deck. And pretty neat. They then put in, had a chopper drop a couple of 2 different sets of floating targets on either side of the Enterprise. And they called into Norfolk, or emailed in to Norfolk to get permission to fire ordnance. And when you're on a ship like that, they call the family members or friends Tigers. That's the Navy term for visitors, I guess. Or LSU, whatever. Maybe that's what it is. But they fired it. Well, the message went out, and he said, like to fire 10 rounds for Tiger. And the response came back, you want to do what? So the captain recalled the message, and he said, typical lack of communication, misunderstanding, we need to fire 10 rounds for maintenance purposes. So they actually brought 2 cruisers along Enterprise parallel to the ship. They fired the 5-inch guns, 5 rounds apiece off those cruisers and lobbed them about 6 miles out in the water. The floating targets by then had floated somewhere further away from the carrier, and they fired up all the 50 caliber machine guns and put on one heck of a display for everybody on board. So only the other thing I can remember, which was very impressive, this is the last time and the only time in the history of the United States Navy that they've been able to have a Tiger cruise on the last trip that she would make as a warship. There were 30,000 people at the pier in Norfolk when we pulled in Sunday morning. Water boats, but the captain actually, since the crew would be together the last time on ship, met with everybody in the hangar bay, second floor, Saturday night. And the esprit de corps that was demonstrated was unbelievable. And it was a heartfelt speech. You knew he was not just blowing smoke; he was really telling the truth. They kept work measures, which some of us do, a lot of us do. We turn in every year. Mine are laughable compared to what they turned in. I would actually like to have paid for a page of what they did. For preparation of 3 million meals in an 8-month deployment. 4.2 million emails sent from my son's group in an 8-month deployment for weapons and communications and so forth. And the captain said, that just proves it's better to give than receive, which was a pretty good comment. All the catapults working for the entire deployment, he said, I've been on the waters for 40 years. You normally get 50%. But the esprit de corps was outstanding. It's something that we are proud of, all of us, anybody as Americans, but no matter what branch of service, we're very fortunate. Probably the scariest thing I heard, he said a lot more than I thought he could or would. He said they went to the Strait of Hormuz 10 different times in an 8-month deployment. That's scary in itself. They set off at the 25 nautical mile marker outside, across the coast of Iran, leaning over the line, saying, come get some. They were charged 4 different times by Iranian gunboats, and they actually turned back. So to hear the success stories and for the captain to make the statement that without the crew, no weakness in any department was something pretty special to hear from me personally. And again, whether it's Army, Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy, Marines, we're all very fortunate. Gave me a different perspective. I've never climbed so many stairs up and down in my life because, very honestly, except for the mess hall, which is not that large, the flight deck, and the hangar deck, you're climbing up or down stairs or from where I'm standing to that funny colored hat through a bulkhead, lifting your feet and putting your feet down. So their wellness program is working real well for those guys. They're all in good shape.
And they've got about probably 5,000 just regular folks on that carrier before they put on there all of the special people that are for mission sensitive or the visitors that run.
Large city, a small city, and they took the planes off and on all night long, and the ship just shook. But again, the most memorable thing is probably breaking the nautical speed record in the ordnance stuff that we saw. But thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you for sharing.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Rob's going to trip for a lifetime. I kind of went back and we talked internally, and I said, you know, to put things into perspective for everybody, they have literally no privacy on the boat. I mean, literally no privacy whatsoever. And we all drive our nice little vehicles to work, go to the refrigerator and get a glass of milk or whatever, watch our big screen television and sit on the couch. And our very worst day, anybody in this county, anybody in our country, is never what anybody in service face. We have it pretty dadgum good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate all of that about the ship and your trip and what have you, but it seems that I can't get an email or a phone call from anybody when there's not going to be a purchasing board meeting. So I was here this morning bright and early, a little after 8 for your 8:30 meeting, and no meeting.
I will
I've
ensure,
asked before for a phone call since emails are so hard to get to me, but I didn't get a phone call this time.
I'll do it myself from here on out, promise.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Sorry for the problem.
And I do want to congratulate our A&M folks for their victory this weekend against Alabama.
Where is Debbie Sue?
Well, she was texting actively, I will tell you, during the game, and I had asked her to, I said, you know, it's a shame that I don't have a hat. So she saw to it that, that I might have a hat that I could display up here. And again, congratulations to, they have had a great year in their first year in the SEC. I think they've won a whole lot more games than Arkansas has won.
Well, let me recognize Mayor Cook from Mansfield is here with us as well.
Mayor, welcome.
We ready?
We're ready.
Okay, purchasing has 3 items for your consideration this morning. The first item is RFP number 2012-094. This is the Service Organizational Controls Audit of the Tarrant County Tax Office for the Tax Office. We're recommending award to BKD LLP in the amount of $39,500, and if approved, we're also asking for a contract approval.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Our second item is bid number 2013-007. This is an annual contract for paper and plastic products. This is a countywide contract. We're recommending for award on a per unit price basis to the primary and secondary vendors listed on your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And our final item is bid number 2013-010. This is the annual contract for dishwashing and laundry chemicals for the Sheriff's Department. This is also based on a per unit price basis. We're asking for, recommending the award to the primary and secondary vendors listed on your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
With the city of Benbrook, I move approval of item, what is it?
K1A.
8K1A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments?
Yes, I had one, and I didn't bring it in here. I'll make it after closed.
Okay. You have before you the claim.
Your Honor, we do have a bond this morning also.
Okay.
Get my staff to get it if I had anyone in here.
I have to move a little faster for you. Okay. All right. We would seek approval of the bond of Sergio De Leon as Justice of the Peace for Precinct 5. He won't be taking office till after the canvass of the vote, but we have his bond ready for your approval at this time.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Now, did we approve? We haven't approved the newly elected constable in that particular.
No, and that he can't give his bond until after you appoint him, and you can't appoint him until after Sergio is sworn in. So on the at the day of canvass, we'll in rapid succession take care of those things as well.
Okay, so he'll have that bond.
We have that all agendized for you.
The bond is in process, but we can't have it actually issued until that day.
Okay.
We would seek a vote on the motion.
Do we have a motion?
You did move and second.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We'll back up to appointments. Commissioner Johnson.
I would like to appoint Richard A. Sanchez to the Historical Commission. I have an opening there.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have 3 items we'd like to bring to the court this morning. The first one, item A, is an update from the hospital district. It's your monthly update. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Manius. I want to thank you all for allowing me to come before you each month. I think it opens a line of communication that I'm very appreciative of and very thankful that we can stand and give updates. The other thing I want to thank you all for is your appointments to the board. You've got 11 folks on that board who are paid in cookies, and we try to do that 3 times a meeting. So weight gain might be an issue, but that's our way of thanking them. But the amount of time that they give and their commitment for every one of those board members is a real challenge. And I want to thank you all for your efforts to put board members on there that are conscientious and concerned about trying to make a hospital district the best it can be. And to that extent, we elected new officers at this last board meeting. Mr. Trent Petty will serve as our chair. Ralph Emerson will serve as our vice chair. And Mr. D.T. Wynn will serve as our secretary. So we look forward to working with our new chair and our new vice chair and our new secretary in our efforts to constantly make the patient, the taxpayer, and the community be at the forefront of everything that we do. If we continue to do that, we'll always have a good hospital district. So I wanted to thank you all for that effort. Also, at our last board meeting, Life Gift came. Ron Earl, who's been before you all at numerous occasions, came and awarded JPS the Silver Medal Award. There's not a whole lot of hospitals in the nation that receive that. It's because of the amount of contributions that we make to Life Gift. It also becomes a philosophy that our physicians provide, as well as our nurses, to our patients and to their families, in the hopes of taking one life that may have changed and extending another one's life. And JPS, I think, can be very proud of its efforts. Our physicians can be, and you as commissioners and judge can be very proud of that as well. Also give you an update on the 1115 waiver. I know we talk about the 1115 waiver. We at JPS are always willing to give you all individual briefings, but we took our projects today down to Austin. David Salisbury left. The files are too big to send electronically. It would take a while to get down there. And the first time we tried to send them, the state was having some challenges getting them. So we have driven them down and given David a road trip to take our files down to them and look at those projects. But to let you all know the relationship that we had with 18 hospitals in the 9-county area that we have, the 4 MHMR facilities in the 9 counties, the University of North Texas, and our Tarrant County Public Health Department have been phenomenal. And the work that we've done, we'll probably be the first to submit our plans to them. We were the first to submit our preliminary review. I think you can be proud about our region. You've got a great group of folks doing some good things. And the bottom line that you all as commissioners and judge need to know, and the community needs to know, is that federal dollars now, it's not an increase in federal dollars, it's just the federal dollars now that come back to Texas and come back to our region in particular, that we as a public hospital put up that intergovernmental transfer to pull down, is now money that the federal government says you have it, but you have to earn it. You have to show us outcomes. We're not just going to give you money. And that's a transformation of healthcare, but I think it's a very smart transformation of healthcare. So when you look at some of the chronic diseases we're trying to challenge and trying to defeat, you look at some of the populations that will be growing, such as our geriatrics programs and all, you've got a lot of programs by a lot of hospitals and a lot of folks in this community going to make better health. So I'm very, very proud of that. The last thing I wanted to let you all know is if you've driven up Main Street or down it, depending on your opinion, you'll see the St. Joe's facility begin to come down. The demolition crew has done a fabulous job at this point. We have kept the dust to a minimum. There have not been any difficulties or problems, and that's quite an operation to watch that building come down. I realize for some it might be slightly sad, but watching the building decay, I think, was more sad. So we plan to have most of the bricks off the face of the building, and it will be down by Thanksgiving. The bricks and everything, steel girders and everything will be cleared totally by the New Year's, and you will have green space with an exercise track around it with exercise stations probably the last of March, 1st of April. We did find in our demolition 2 time capsules, and we will be opening those time capsules, and we are going to have Sister Frances, who's one of our leading community leaders, come by, and we will open those boxes. We know that one of the time capsules is from 1951 because it's time stamped on it, and the other box we do not know. It looks very similar, but we'll open those boxes up, and then we'll provide the relics of that to the diocese and make sure that Sister Frances will take care of that. Also, I want to personally thank Paul Payne in Fort Worth South and that effort and that TIF, because we would not be there without Commissioner Brooks's guidance on that and Paul Payne's leadership on that, because we would not have had the money to take St. Joe's down if we just did it with what we had. So that's a huge plus to the leadership that the Commissioner provided, and the work that Paul Payne does makes a big difference for us at JPS. And I'm really proud of the relationship that we've had with them. You know, in the past, JPS was a little insular. They thought that they could do everything on their own, and that's a poor opinion. And I think being part of a community makes a big difference for JPS. Judge, happy to answer any questions you or colleagues on the court may have.
Just a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
Last summer, we had a reunion at JPS of former St. Joseph Hospital employees and other stakeholders. I would suggest that when you dedicate that new garden and walking track, that you call that group, that you invite that group, and perhaps open the time capsules during the course of that ceremony.
Okay. That's a great suggestion, and we have really established a great rapport with the Alumni Association and Ms. Bass and the others that head that up. So we'll definitely consider that and figure out what we do to make that best for the alumni. And also, we will be providing some bricks and do some things. We have a fundraising effort, and we will be providing some of the bricks for the monument and the dedication that I've mentioned to you in the past regarding. So thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate
it. Members of the Court, a week ago to item B. This is an update on proposed amendments to the South Side Fort Worth Tiff Incremental Financing District Number 4 project and financing plan. Ms. McMillan is here to begin the presentation.
Robert provided a perfect segue into the Southside TIF and to what we're here to talk about today.
Lisa, before you get going, by the way, there is a handout that we handed out to you that is at your at your desk this morning on this.
That is the amended project plan proposal. Kind of as a background, in 2002, the county approved participation in the City of Fort Worth Tax Increment Financing District Number 4, which is the South Side TIF, which encompasses the medical district area. We currently participate in that TIF at 100% of our rate. It's a 22-year TIF, and we are in there until we reach a cap of $4 million. With the hospital district, they're in at the same 100% participation up to a cap of $3.5 million. Originally, the funding from the TIF was to pay for approximately $45 million in project costs and another $15 million in educational facilities that would come from the increment that was contributed by the school district. As you may recall, this summer, Mr. Payne came forward and gave an update on the status of this TIF, and he showed you at that time that the county and the hospital district will reach their cap with the FY12 tax year. So when we pay in our increment next year in 2013, we will actually reach our caps and would be out of that TIF. However, the proposal now is to continue that contribution and to add another $45 million in project costs to the TIF. Some of those would be just like the facility that the hospital district and that contribution that the TIF is making to that project. Those are additional project costs. So under that proposed amendment, there would be a total project cost then throughout the life of the TIF of approximately $90 million. The county's maximum participation would be raised from $4 million to $8.5 million, and the hospital districts from the current $3.5 million to approximately $7.35 million. But at the same time, our participation rate is going to be lowered to only 50%. And to achieve these increments, we have 9 years left on the TIF to do this. It does not extend the life of the TIF. It will just be for the last 9 years of the TIF. I'm going to have Paul Payne come up now and give a little bit more information about the proposal.
Paul, we appreciate you being here, and I want to also thank you for your service. I know you were the commander out of our captain out of our joint reserve base for a couple of years, and probably more than a couple.
Yeah. Well,
but we appreciate very much your service to our country.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here today, and thank you for giving me this chance to present this. Let me very briefly, this is just a refresher of what I talked about when we met back in the spring, but here's our board makeup. Here's all the TIFs were TIF 4 on the south side, and here's our map for the TIF, just as a reminder, and that our purpose to do that. And Lisa gave a great update on that, and that's the current plan, the $45 million. We've been very successful. We've doubled our base since we started, and I think that's significant to note that in 1997, the year we started, we had negative growth in the area of about 2.5%, and the following year, the first 2 years, were negative growth. But what's most significant is everybody around us was positive growth of about 2.5% to 3%. So we were actually going the opposite direction of everybody around us. We turned that around in the third year, and we have continued to have positive growth ever since. So very, very successful in what the TIF has done and brought to the area. This is the current projection. As Lisa had mentioned, both the county and the hospital would reach their caps of $4 million for the county and $3.5 for the hospital district in 2012 at the end of this year, and that reflects that. And then hopefully I get one more slide. Nope, I missed it. There it is. I'm sorry. That would show that reflects the actual change, the projection. So this summarizes in numbers exactly what Lisa was saying and what's in your informational report. So if you look at the county column, your 50% participation starting in 2013 carrying through to 2022 would reflect just over 8.5 total contribution in the hospital, 50% participation again starting in 2013. And I would open that up for questions.
Paul, I believe that you indicated that because of the things that the TIF has done in its boundaries, we've been able to double the tax base.
That is absolutely accurate to date. We've already doubled the base. My projection, and I believe I'm being very conservative.
That was my next question. What impact do you think that expanding our contribution what further impact do you expect?
My forecast, very conservative, is that we would triple the base by 2022. And the paybacks, and I haven't done this recently, Commissioner Brooks, but it was about a year ago I sat down and I did an estimate, and I was trying to do an aggregate, not just each of the taxing jurisdictions, but the payback was tremendous. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4.5 years. Once the TIF stops, what would your payback, when would you be reimbursed everything because of the increase that we've grown at? Am I making sense how I'm saying that? So it was, and I haven't updated it, I can do it's just a math problem, but you can figure it out. Your payback's very quickly, and then you're getting all of that back every time over. So the tremendous investment in growing this area that was going, the first 2 years without the TIF, we were absolutely going negative. Now we're positive, and the growth has really accelerated. And the other point I'd say is we went through this exercise, and a lot of people looking at it, we were very strategic of what is it we're going to be building in there, and it's very important to the growth. And Main Street's our next big project that we're doing. The TIF believes in it. They just added another $2 million to get me to 8.4, and I believe I'm whole. I'm taking that forward, and that's from Vickery all the way down to Magnolia. Extremely important to the county's parcel, and I think also extremely important as we've had a very difficult time in trying to continue this economic growth eastward. And I think this last piece on Main Street is going to will help us jump that physical divide of I-35 over to Evans and continue to grow inside the city District 8, but still inside the county. And it's been a challenge for us to continue that growth. I think this is it, and I think we're going to be very fortunate. And I'm excited, the county's parcel from the county health department going down to the hospital, and Robert Early's leadership and with that whole campus plan. I think the Main Street project is going to blend in very, very nicely with that.
One of the things we had talked about, and it appears as though that's been taken into account, but was to be sure that in the new amounts that we were expanding, that we had the same percentage of participation as we had in the past. Has that been calculated, and are we maintaining? You got a puzzled look on your face.
No, no,
not your face, her face.
No.
So has that been taken into account?
I was trying to understand exactly what, when you
He's
say the
talking
same
about the
percentage.
same ratio of contribution as other taxing entities.
Well, the one problem with that is when the expanded portion of the school district can't participate. So, but a good portion of the school district's increment right now is already going toward those $15 million in school project costs that I already talked about. So, but that is, any of the expanded area, the school district is not going to participate. But the school district, and Paul, you might address what their cap is. They're still participating for a few more years, correct?
Yes, and this graph shows that their participation, their actual contribution would be $30 million. It's capped at 50%. When the TIF reaches 60, they've participated at the 30. Half of that was still, of the $30 million, was to be captured and used for their parcels inside the TIF boundary to make improvements to help grow the area. But the legal complications with trying to address that taxing jurisdiction was about 2 years ago when the state said that the TIF, the ISDs in the statewide, could no longer enter into new TIF agreements. It complicates me working with them on trying to negotiate an interlocal agreement. So, to your question specifically, the 5 other taxing jurisdictions have all agreed to continue to participate, and that was not the case. So your point is well taken, that in 2012, the county and the hospital districts would have been reaching their caps, and in 2015, I had estimated that the college, water, and ISD would be reaching their caps, leaving only the city. Okay. And now I have everybody participating through 2022 with the exception of ISD. ISD was not touched.
Right. Has the city increased their participation any in the new $45 million?
The proposal is for the city to continue to participate at they're at 100, but they would have adjusted to 90% starting in 2013 through the duration through 2022.
And so I guess that's the question. Their only participation is through their property tax right now. They're not adding any of the sales tax that you have grown, I'm sure, quite significantly over the development of that TIF. And
Yes, sir.
I guess as we move forward with that, I want to be sure that at a minimum the city is in for the same percentage on the additional $45 million. And if we're increasing our percentage, then they should be increasing their percentage too.
Well, actually, the proposal is for you to go from 100% to 50%, and the city to go from 100 to 90%.
I understand that, but even in that drop to 50%,
yes, sir.
there's a new group in there because the ISD has now moved out. And so I'm looking at the percentages, had the ISD not been in there before,
yes, sir.
And we looked at what percentage each one of us made up, I want to make sure that we're not stepping up. And I don't think we are. I just haven't looked at that to determine. I mean, it looks like, I would think that because we went from 100 down to 50, that certainly we're not increasing our, our percentage of participation among the remaining entities, but I want to make sure of it.
If you look at the slide that's on the screen right now, you can look at the bottom line on the project termination. It shows what the estimated total increment that will be paid in with the addition, with the additional 90 million, up to 90 million projects. So you can see what the city, in that column there under city tax increment, is about 30, is that 38 million?
38.
Okay.
And ours is 8.5, and like I said, the hospital districts is 7.
And it looks like that the city is almost, well, they're going up each year. You said they were decreasing at what time?
They're not.
They're not really, because of the increase in the thing. They're. I thought I understood you to say that the city was decreasing in 2013.
No, sir. The city was the only taxing jurisdiction that was 100% participation through 2022. And I think this is significant that without this proposed change, the city would have been the only taxing jurisdiction with the interlocal agreements as they are today that would have been standing alone after 2015.
Okay.
And my concern as the administrator is after 2015, if I only have one taxing jurisdiction participating, we may lose the whole TIF. And I think with these agreements, and I think they're very favorable to reduce the levels down to 50% by the others, the city is willing to stay in for the whole thing. There's no argument that they were standing alone, and we have a team here of 5 taxing jurisdictions through 2022.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's important to note, too, that if we contribute, we are doubling our contribution from our cap. We're raising our cap double. But at that same point, from here forward, from next year forward, we're actually receiving money back, which we have not been receiving any increment revenue because we've been giving 100%. So our $4 million that we're contributing from here on out, we're also, over that same time period, going to generate $4 million. So that we weren't generating before.
Thank you.
Are you looking for action today?
No action today. This is briefing only, but we will be coming back with an amendment to the TIF agreement in approximately 2 weeks.
All right. And again, thank you for everything. I mean, it's looking. You've done a great job out there. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to add one thing on this timeline, because Commissioner Brooks, good question to ask the timeline here. TIF Board 4 voted on a resolution to take forward on the proposed restated and amended project and finance plan. So they've already agreed to that and approved a resolution. I've already presented an information report to City Council, which they've reviewed. On December 18th, City Council will then be asked to take a vote to approve the proposed restated and amended project and finance plan. That's why today is not an action item for Commissioners Court. It would be only after the City Council had voted on approval of the project and finance plan,
so it'll be January.
which you have
It'll be
here.
after the first of the year.
Which
right?
Yeah.
And that's what you hold.
So you're okay with it being January then before we do this?
I'll let Lisa answer that.
Yes, I mean, they're going to say the same thing and it's going to act the same way. It's just that we have to have as our exhibit the approved project and financing plan as the amendment. So it'll be January because obviously we're not meeting after the council will make that approval.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
The next item.
Paul.
The next item is kind of what I call a cleanup with City of Fort Worth on some of the TIFs, things that have been lingering. We have 2 TIFs that the city has actually put in additional boundaries, additional land area in their boundaries. And under our recent TIF agreements, we will not participate in any added land, the increment for any added land, unless we make that as an amendment to our TIF agreement. So TIF 7, which is the North Tarrant Parkway here, and TIF 10, which is a Lone Star Cabela's TIF, both had land area that has been added by the city and by the TIF board into those land areas. And I'll show you those here. So as you may recall, TIF 7 is the North Tarrant Parkway, and you can see the area along 35 on both sides. The areas in green were the areas that were added, and those were added so that they could do more road projects in those and facilitate road projects in those areas. That's why it was added. So they would like for us to do an amendment that would include those areas, because right now, we're not paying on the increment, which is minimal right now, but the increment generated in those TIF areas. And just to clean it up, we need to add that and change the boundaries, and we'll just put that as an amendment to our plan.
Now, according to that drawing, then you're going to have that little piece of white circled but not included?
Maggie?
It's probably a nonprofit, it's probably not on the
The
tax
property
roll.
at the very bottom, I can't,
On Old Denton Highway, right there at the corner of...
is that not a city property? I don't have anything to point to it, but at the very bottom of the green line on the right
That
side
white
of the little
box there.
I think that's the key. In the right-hand corner?
No.
No.
Or are you talking about the?
You see the dark green line comes
Right
down,
there. Is
the
that
very
an
bottom of
outparcel?
that, there's a white section.
Oh, yes, that parcel is not included in the TIF district. I do not know the owner of that property.
Okay, then why are we extending the green line down to that and through that?
As for potential roadway improvements.
Old Denton Road, and that's a major intersection, probably.
Okay. I would be interested, I'd like to know why that piece of property is not being included.
Sure, absolutely, I can find that out for you.
Okay.
All right.
At least
So,
on that, on particular one, we're not requesting that our participation level change.
no, and that's what I want to say. Currently, right now, we're participating at 80%, and we are capped at that at $10.6 million. The hospital district does not participate in that TIF. It doesn't make any difference. Our cap remains the same. All it does is we start paying on the increment of that, so we just reach our cap sooner, basically. If there's any additional increment for that, we just reach our cap sooner. So that's one. And these are all things I'm just briefing you on, and we'll be bringing back amendments to that. The next one is the TIF 10, which is the Lone Star or the Cabela's TIF. And let me see, I think this one shows it. Well, that doesn't show it. And what happened on this TIF, and I don't know, right in the middle of the TIF, there was a hole. Because when the TIF was established, there was an out parcel that was not part of the city. It was an unincorporated county. So when that was annexed by the city, they took in that out parcel. So it's just a little donut that was in the middle of it, a vacant land that they annexed. So that would be another portion. And again, we have a cap in that TIF. And the cap of ours is approximately $8.4 million. The hospital district does participate in that TIF, and their cap is approximately $7.1 million. Our participation rates vary in that TIF. We started out at a 80% rate for the first 5 years. We dropped down to 70% for the second 5 years, and then the remainder of the TIF, it's at 50% until we reach that cap. And again, all it is just incorporating the whole TIF so that any kind of project cost can be spent within that little hole that was included. But it doesn't do anything to our participation.
Okay.
What was included in the project plan for this TIF, besides the Cabela's Center?
Well, originally, we thought a lot more development was going to come around in that area. So it was, besides the Cabela's project, there was roadway improvements that would provide access, because right now it's pretty much vacant land right there, and would provide roadway improvements. Except for the Cabela's, not a lot has happened. There's still going to be money in there to do those project improvements should those developers finally come.
You got some hotels that have developed up in there.
Sorry?
Hotels?
Retail
Yeah,
on the southern end of it.
It hasn't generated the new development as planned. We're behind schedule on that, I think. All right, the next two are the TIF 12 is the East Barry Renaissance TIF, and TIF 13 is a Woodhaven TIF. These were two TIFs that the county has participated in, but it was back when the hospital district had to make their own decision on them. There was about 4 or 5 TIFs that the hospital district never took any action on, because the hospital district was really not wanting to take action, and they were hoping for the county to, and we had to go to the legislative change to get that permission for us to do that. So these were kind of caught in that time period where no action was happening. We have looked over some of those TIFs and decided that several of them don't need the hospital district participation. I think North Tarrant Parkway was one of them, and Lancaster was another. But these two are very marginal in the amount of increment and the amount of project costs that are actually to be paid for. And we look at these two TIFs, too, that the hospital district really has a lot of its client base from these two TIF areas, and by helping redevelop these TIFs, we're helping out that same client base that would be generating the client base for the hospital district. So the staff is proposing that we have hospital district participation approved for these two. And I'll start with the East Berry TIF. Just to give a little bit of background on that one, you know that goes along the corridor there at Highway 287. I think you showed the pictures right there. The TIF funds are going to pay for approximately $20 million in project cost. Currently, it's a TIF is till 2027, but what we are proposing is a hospital district would just start paying in 2013. They would not go back and pick up any of the years prior to this. They would just start paying increment in 2013 till the end of the TIF, or until a cap of approximately $4.4 million is reached. So based on the increment in 2012, that would be approximately $29,000 a year that the hospital district would be participating for this year, based on this increment.
Is that the old Masonic home?
That is the old Masonic home to the east, that eastern pink block.
And as shown in the slide, the requested participation is at 80%, and that's what we base the cap on too.
What is our participation in that?
And our participation in this one is at 100%. The county's is. The next one is the TIF 13 Woodhaven Tiff. Again, this one is a redevelopment TIF, and actually at this point, this TIF has a negative increment. You may know if you've driven that area, there's a lot of apartments and older structures there. A lot of those apartments have actually, a few of them have been demolished, so value has actually come off of this TIF at this point. So it's not generating the increment right now, but hopefully with things going on, economy turning around, that it will start generating increment. But this is another reason why it's important to have all of the entities participating at some point to generate that increment.
So is Fort Worth having to pick up the tab on that? Has there been any debt issued?
There's not really been any projects done because it's a pay-as-you-go TIF and there really hasn't been any increments, so there's no projects being done. We're waiting for it to start gaining increments before anything can happen. This TIF was set up to fund approximately $13.5 million in project costs, and again, it would run until 2028. The county is participating at 80% in this TIF, and we're proposing that the hospital district also participate at 80%, and the estimated cap over that time period would only be about $1.9 million. And again, right now, there's no increment, so there is no increment to be paid in by the hospital district, and we're not paying anything in either, but it would hopefully happen in the future. So these are the 4 amendments that we're looking at bringing to you in the coming weeks to clean up our support with City of Fort Worth and a few of their TIFs.
Thank you.
And I just want to end.
Thank you.
I just want to end by saying that it's a great time to be an Aggie. Gig 'em.
Savor the moment.
And with that, Your Honor, we don't have anything else this morning.
At this time, then, we will recess our open meeting and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under 551.
We just listened to him.
I'm sure glad I beat Wilder's estimate.
59%. Having returned from our closed session, we'll now address the following matters.
This is, thank you, Your Honor. Under item D2, the district attorney requesting the resolution and order as described in the agenda.
I move that the Tarrant County Commissioners Court authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire 0.0028 acres, 124 square feet of land situated in the J.M. Evans Survey, abstract number 466, being part of Lot 3, Block 46 of the Benbrook Lakeside Addition, an addition to the City of Benbrook, as recorded in Volume 388W, page 1 of the Plat Records of Tarrant County, Texas, for use in a public project known as the laying out and reconstruction of U.S. Highway 377 from Winscott Lakeway to Interstate Highway 20 in Brentbrook, Texas.
Second.
And authorize the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire this property for this public use.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Court.
We're adjourned. Whoop. You made your, that's right, you
Yeah, he made
you
it.
made your appointment.
I did make it.